What up, everybody? And welcome to Late Night Live number 134. I hope everybody is doing wonderful. That introduction had a whole lot of energy. What's going on, OJ Swinny? Hope you are doing awesome. Welcome again, everybody. We are doing business penmanship today. We're going to continue along this business penmanship journey because I have been quite enjoying my business penmanship practice lately. I've been putting in a lot of work in my evenings and whatnot before I go to bed, doing a little bit of practice, so I wanted to stay on that road to continue that going. Before we get started writing, the spinning top is charged up today, so I'm gonna spin it, and we haven't spun it in a while. What's going on, Skeet? Let's spin it. Oh, that was a bad spin. I don't know if it's flat up there or if it's even turned on. We'll see. Can you guys see it up there? Well, is that visible over my shoulder? Will you guys see when it dies? Yeah, that's a lot of L's. The ascender stroke is one that I have to put a lot of work into because is one here I did. It's an OP one. Whoops. Like right here in ornamental penmanship, we do the undercurve into the downstroke and lift right there, and then we come back and do the exit, so it's in 2 strokes usually. But in business penmanship, it has to be 1 fluid stroke, and if you do, whether you do 2 in a row, or 3 in a row, or 4 in a row, I don't want to pause or stop in between all those, so it's a lot of progression. None of them are, there's not a lot of perfect examples here, but there's some maintaining flow throughout, or there's like usually at least 1 or 2 good ones in every sort of group of 4, which I'm grateful / happy for. Yeah, so we're gonna do that. We're gonna continue on this business penmanship journey that we started last week. All right, fresh paper. I am using Rhodia Ice paper today. If anybody's curious, it is one of my favorite. Am I crazy? Wait a minute. This feels like an extremely large margin. Is it always that big? I guess it is. What is that? 1 3/4 inches? Is it the same on this side? No, this side is 1 5/8. Interesting. This is a fractionally smaller margin than that. Wow. I feel like they're not. I've never noticed that the one side is that large. Doesn't matter. I just struck me. It's interesting. Changed out my my glide sheet today for a white piece of paper, the same Rhodia Ice paper that we'll be writing on. You don't need to use a glide sheet. Also not an official term, but I use one just to have that my hand can float on, and its main purpose is to keep my paper always lined up with the camera. If I keep it lined up with this paper, then it's always going to be nice and straight for you. Oh, is the top too tiny? I also think it's covered by my shoulder. I'm gonna move it over closer to Astro Boy. You probably won't see it as a top, but it might trigger some movement when when it falls. I don't know how long it's gonna last. I haven't used it in a very, very long time, but it's up there spinning away. The background is too far away for you to see anything. All right, today has been a day of computer work, so I am not even a little warmed up. So we're gonna start fresh today and get warmed up here. Using, once again, this is my Mahjong A2 with a Pilot vanishing point nib unit inside that has been customized by Gina at Custom Nib Studio. Okay, one of my main things I need to remember, if I was doing ornamental penmanship right now, this would be probably the angle that I would do most of. This is what feels natural to me. But I want my writing today to be more like so. We're gonna try to fight to get a little more upright today. So noticing that right away, I will change my direction and angle just a little bit to bring it a little more vertical. From the ovals, back to ovals, at the right angle this time. I was so excited to wear. I got new headphones. I soldered, actually, some internals on some new headphones last week. They are right here. I'm stoked. But I wanted to wear a bowler hat today. And the bowler hat and headphones don't get along. So, the bowler hat won. But eventually, I will wear my new headphones for a stream. Alright. Yes, they're very small. They're the COS Porta Pros. Designed in, I believe, the 80s? I got my first pair quite a while ago, a long time ago. But this pair... well, I'll show you. This pair... It's a writing stream, but I can get off topic. Why not? So this pair, because when I wear headphones and, like, as you guys can see when I stream, I don't usually have headphones or music playing in both ears. I usually just like to have it in one ear. Same thing when I walk around, when I have my my earpods or my Galaxy, what are they called? My Galaxy pods in. I only put in one ever. I'm not a fan of the ambient sound and all that, those apps and whatnots. I just use one earbud instead. But these ones, so they're classic, traditional, old school headphones, but we'll wear them like this. I can unplug the one cable, so I only have one cable coming off my head instead of two, if I'm only going to be using one ear. So that's the bit that I make this focus. Hiya. So that's the part that took apart the back, soldered in these little connectors back there, and then put them back together so that they can be, I believe it's called an MMCX plug, so they can be plugged in that way. Yeah. Happy. Glad that I didn't ruin them when I was soldering and burn a PCB board or something. But not for use this evening. Maybe next stream. Next time I don't wear a hat, I guess. So in the meantime, they will sit just behind me, where they belong for now. Okay, back to warming up. Easily distracted today, apparently. Now this reverse or indirect oval is going to be the important one for the beginning of today, because I think we're going to start with the lowercase, or sorry, with capital V. I think we finished off last week with the X. And I think the next one on our agenda, these are very round. Let me get them a little more ovoid. Normally my left hand would sit right here, but that casts a big shadow, so I'm trying to keep it out of the way and it feels weird. I guess I could put it way out of the way. Doesn't really need to hold the paper, but it feels strange not holding the paper. Get nice and warmed up, because my body is computer work tense, we're gonna call it. See if I can get those a little closer together. While we're getting things started, I'll do a quick shout out to any of my lurkers watching the video, any of the lurkers out there. Lurker Leon, if you're in the room. Lurker James, don't know if you're here today. You might be cooking today, not sure. Lurker Jen. Lurker Jen is here, I think, maybe. Lurker Lisa? I don't think Lurker Lisa's here today. Lurker Lisa's not really a lurker anymore. She lost her lurker card. What is that under there? Okay. Let's go into it, shall we? Yeah. What's going on, Lurker James? And hello, Jen. Alright, this is where we are starting today. I always have issues making this outline either too straight or not curvy enough, or too curvy. Both the down and the up. I'm decent at making them relatively straight or too curvy. Hitting that perfect spot right in the middle is a challenge for me. What does E.C. Mills have to say on the topic? For those of you who don't know, this is E.C. Mills' business penmanship book, practical business penmanship. Well, hello, Eric. Welcome, welcome. How you doing this evening? Last week was a busy chat week. It's a chill. Things have chilled out a little bit today, it seems, which is okay. All right, this is level 20 or lesson 28 in the book. What does he say? First, practice the compound curve movements, making them fill all the space between the blue lines. The capital V is composed of the small oval and two compound curves. The last part of the letter is made a trifle shorter than the first part. What do you guys figure the actual measurement for a trifle is? it was. I feel like last week the chat was on one last week. It was so active and energetic. It was super fun. It reminded me of some of the early days of late night live. It was good. Not that it's not always good, but last week I was having trouble keeping up with everybody in the chat. It was fun. I also love that I'm doing BP lately. I have decided that improving my business penmanship is going to, it can't not improve my ornamental penmanship as well. And I've genuinely really never given much energy or attention to the business penmanship capitals. I explained this last week, but the business penmanship lowercase, though slightly different than ornamental penmanship lowercase, they correlate quite a bit more together. It's more so just ratio and whatnot that changes, and how you write them. So I have practiced business penmanship lowercase more than I have the capitals, because I always just do ornamental penmanship capitals. That's my default, and that's my go-to. And I decided it is time to change that. One of these days, I'll do a stream dedicated to engrosser script capitals as well, which I put in a very similar realm as business penmanship capitals. They are not something that I am super comfortable with off the cuff. Can I do them? Yes, but it takes some effort. The big difference with those is they don't require as much rapid movement. So it's more just about drilling them in here and then learning to write them. These ones, I gotta train the muscles and really get this movement going. There we go. Big, after the fact thank you, to UK Mike from Lurker James for UK Mike when you watch this later, because I'm assuming inevitably you will be. So, hello UK Mike, and James says thank you. Okay, here we go. Let's dive into the V here. Now his first one just goes. He just loops it. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. This is the first exercise so far, I'm noticing, that we don't do... He doesn't recommend, like, ovals or push-pulls. We're gonna do push-pulls. But he doesn't specifically... Are we in the right focus? Yeah. He doesn't specifically recommend or suggest them. Whoa. I want that. Thicker all of a sudden. That's better. All right. Little loop. We're gonna do a few of these to get ourselves started. Again, trying hard to pull down that slant line rather than what feels that slant line, which is what I want to pull down, but I will not. I will fight my natural habits. Wonder how fast. I wish Mills gave like insights into how fast he did these. Because I mean, technically, they could, maintaining fluidity, I mean, they could be done this speed. I'm not fluid at this speed. At least not now, because I'm not super warmed up. But they could be like that speed. Or they could be like out of control fast. Which are obviously smoother. What's going on, Jose? Howdy to you as well. I'm curious. It's one thing I really wish Mills did a bit more in his books. We're just gonna go with a medium, nice, smooth movement. Try to get some control of that width. Oof, those get messy, wobbly. Usually, wobbly means I just have to go faster, but I don't know if that's the case right now. I think wobbly just means I gotta practice more and get used to the movement, because that one felt better. A little sharp on a couple of those. Really has much. He gets like a more rounded turn. So it's almost, it's not straight, but almost straight down and straight up on that slant line. I get a couple of those that hit that, but I end up getting quite a bit sharper on top. What's going on, Polished and Assembled? Of course. This is where the cool nerds hang out on a Tuesday. Or a few of them, anyways. That's got more of that up and down. Had a wonky one there and there, but that's more of the idea. That's the curve I want at the bottom. Ooh, messy that one. Oh, yikes. That's not a fun ad. Sorry, Eric. Yep, Jose, this is the first V drill in Mills's book. And then we'll break it down to just the V itself, and then we'll do the big one. But of the three, this one feels like it's the most challenging. But I guess we're starting here to get used to, we gotta get used to that movement. Keeping the push-pull after the smooth turn. It's a little better. I'll be 100% honest. Blah, can't speak. Be 100% honest. I have never done this drill before. Ever. Too close together a little bit on that one. Eric, what are your thoughts on movement or speed of doing this one? Would you say that a count like this is kind of what you would recommend, or is that, or what you think is comfortable? Or does that look slow or fast to you? What are your thoughts? I specifically ask Eric just because I know he's been working on business penmanship a lot recently. Oh, no ads for Ojaswini. I was wondering. Normally Ojaswini would have complained by at least a couple times about ads. A little faster, you say? Well, alright then. Something a bit like that, maybe? I'm not gonna break out a metronome or anything today, but... It's weird, I think it feels like I would want to go faster while doing like a single letter. But when I do this one that continues, anytime things continue, it's like doing those 4 L's in a row. Your body just wants to slow down and control it so bad. Well, hello, Annie, and hello, Fozzie. Welcome, welcome. Ooh, a couple of these felt really good. Mixed in between by some that didn't feel good at all. Gotta make sure I'm keeping... That's way too slanted. These ones are the right idea. Closer. I definitely get this overturned shape a lot, like I was doing an M or something like that. Yeah, it's a fine pen. It is currently my favorite. But as an example, like this is the Vanishing Point nib that I had ground this year in Philly. If I go to, it just happens to be right here because I was using it earlier. This is my Decimo, which is my other Vanishing Point, or my other Vanishing Point. What's the word? Cartridge, not cartridge. Nib unit. It is not much. It is drier because I haven't used it as much recently. But the hairline is super fine as well. All my pens are super fine. I love it. Am I using combination movement? I think a little bit. In a perfect world, I'm trying to not really use my fingers very much at all. They do come into play here or there, but I'm trying most of this movement to come from my arm. Weird to do an exercise that I've never done before. Because I do so much ornamental penmanship, there aren't very many letters or exercises that I haven't done before. Today we're starting with V, so we'll do V, U, Y. It's not in this family, but I do want to do the capital D today. Because I was attacking that one just a little bit yesterday or the day before that. So I want to do sort of this family of letters. And then at some point I would like to visit the capital D. It's like when I used to go to the gym, whether it was leg day, bicep tries, whatever day it was, I did abs every time. So I feel like the capital D, because I need the most work with it, every day is gonna be a capital D day. Yep, it's very common to the rotation that people have in their hands. One thing that's really interesting to me when giving somebody who's never used a fountain pen before a fountain pen there's an interesting thing that happens with the body when somebody's not used to being relaxed or writing with a fountain pen. If I give them a pen, the sheer fact that this is different or something that they're not used to here, they start like as soon as the pen goes in their hand, it's like if things start getting like weirdly controlled and strange and twisted and contorted. It's fascinating to me, and it happens to people all the time. It's when I give somebody an oblique holder to hold for the first time, the whole body changes. The body dynamic from if somebody's used to writing with a pen to an oblique holder, it's such a mental thing that it just changes. Their body's just uncomfortable with it, which is fascinating to me. So that's always sort of hurdle one for new people using one of these tools, is recognizing when that happens and learning to relax. I usually lean back, and the tilt of the head is a very common thing. I think it was, I don't remember if it was Richie or who it was. Once upon a time, we were chatting about just penmanship in general. And because I'll tilt my head this way when I'm writing. Quite often. I've tried to train it out of myself. But it's just a natural thing. So I guess the pen's there, so it gets my hand out of the way so I can see. But it's such an unhealthy angle to have your head tilted at. But many people tilt to the left quite a bit. There's yep. The angle is a whole game to try to get people to recognize what they have to. Well, I mean, there's a lot of things to remember, I guess. It's hard to remember to relax when all of your focus is going to relaxing, when your body just does not want to relax at all. Then you forget everything about the forms and the angle of the nib and all that stuff. Whoops, dry nib. I started talking. Keep the nib pointed to one corner of the paper? What do you mean? My nib is never pointed to a corner of the... Oh, you mean with an oblique holder. So it's pointed up that way. That makes sense. I mean, I guess if I'm writing right here, my nib is pointed at this corner of the paper. It's fascinating. It's easy to forget how much sort of pen users, calligraphers, penmen take for granted when it comes to being comfortable with the pen. I remember once a friend of mine was shooting a video, super like old school style type video, and they wanted just a prop for their video, or some props for their video. So I lent them like an old writing box and like a bunch of nibs to scatter around and dip holders and some old fountain pens and stuff to have in there, in the video, and didn't think anything of it. There was an oblique holder in there, which in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have put an oblique holder in there because that was a pretty specialized tool. Not even everybody back in the day would really be super familiar with it. But I gave them these tools, didn't think anything of it. They shot the video, they gave all the props and everything back to me. And then when the video came out, I had to bite my tongue. I mean, I did say something eventually, but I laughed at myself because I didn't explain sort of how the tools were used or anything. And the oblique holder was definitely in the video upside down. It was definitely like this, which was fascinating to me. And it was sort of an eye-opening thing. I thought, wow, Yes, that makes sense. Not everybody knows how a dip nib works. Not everybody knows how a fountain pen works. Is that the top? Is that the top? Is that the way you write? It's not intuitive, always. I think my first experience with the oblique holder, I saw somebody use it before I ever used it. So that didn't really happen to me, or there wasn't as much, I guess, uncertainty. I had done reading and watching of videos and whatnot before I ever picked one up or got one. And I was familiar with fountain pens, so I knew how a nib worked and what was up and what was down and whatnot. So it came pretty naturally, but not everybody, or not for everybody. Ooh, that was a good one. Hello, Peter. How you doing this evening? Oh, they rotate the pen. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I find pen rotation fascinating. I think it's interesting that companies, like fountain pen companies, have like specific oblique pens for people who naturally rotate the pen slightly to the left or slightly to the right. Left-handed writers, right-handed writers, and things like that. But I've never understood, like this pen obviously has the clip here. But on, like, any round pen, that's a bad example because it's not a fountain pen. I'll just use this. Any round pen, it's just round. I can hold it that way, or that way, or that way. It doesn't change. So I've never understood before when somebody says, I naturally hold the pen this way, or it naturally is rotated to the left. I don't get that, because it's round. That's 100%, or I could be wrong, but that's just like a visual thing then. Like the oblique holder is a perfect example. If you're not using an ergonomic oblique, like there are some people that will hold the pen and there's like different places where the flange is, and they like every time they grab the pen they go to right and they need to bend their flange because it's always like that way. But it's a round tool. If you just get used to holding it this way, shouldn't it always be the same? Or holding it this way, or obviously not any more than that because that's upside down, but it's fascinating to me. I've never understood where that's like a barrier or something that people have as like an ingrained habit when it's a round tool. You just look at the flange, and if the nib is flat when my flange is down there, it wouldn't be, but that's how I would. Then you just get used to always, you hold the pen so the nib is flat, I thought. Or I would think, but that's counterintuitive, apparently. Well, they look at the nibs too much. I've actually said that before. When, like for Mont Blanc, for example, when I'm teaching for them, the nibs are super pretty. So if you rotate the nib to the left a little bit, you can see it better. You see the nib nicer. So I don't know if this is true or not, but I use that as the excuse why a lot of fountain pen users will habitually rotate a little to the left. It's because they want to see the nib. I feel like those ones are too angled. Distracting nibs. It reminds me of an oblique holder that I carved once. Alright, Fozzie, thanks for hanging out. Say hi to the family for us. I carved an oblique holder with a little Mickey Mouse on the end. And if you hold the pen at the right angle, at a good angle to the paper, so the flange is at a good angle to the paper, the Mickey Mouse is going, eh? His head is like tipped up and his pupils are looking right at you. So if Mickey's not looking at you, you're holding the pen wrong, basically. Fun little holder. Alright, we're gonna do one more of these, then we're gonna move on. I by no means mastered them, but for the sake of keeping the stream, not me just doing these poorly shaped V drills, we're now just gonna do some standalone V's. And we have to make the right side a trifle shorter than the left side. Ooh, how about we round that out? Not the right shape. Remember all the pieces. Oh, Annie, if you're still here, I think you are, I assume you are. I finally watched your podcast, or listened to your podcast. That was great. Thank you very much for sharing. I think our chat is still having issues posting links, but in the description of this video, Annie, you should put the link to your podcast. And then when the stream is over, I'll put it in the description of the video when I'm all finished, so people can listen to it. Listen to Dr. Joe's interview. That was great. Always love listening to Dr. Joe chatting. I feel like there's a fiber of something in my nib. Nice! That's what he says, you live and die by your lowercase. And he's not wrong. A fact that I ignored for a long time, but... and still do sometimes. But it is extremely true. To get that rounded bottom a little bit. This just has the two compound curves. I have trouble getting the right amount of curves so much. Like it's, I draw one. It's a bit too much space there, but much space again. Slightly compound, slightly compound. I mean, the capitals are unquestionably more fun to practice, at least specifically speaking about ornamental penmanship. Capitals in spaghetti. That's what everybody wants to work on. Okay, yeah. Being worried about this little bit. When I do this form, I like my shape I have here. But when I do it into the V, it gets pointy. Judging. Money letters. It's a t-shirt. Which letters do you practice? The money ones. The money ones. Do you guys know where uppercase letters got its name? Uppercase and lowercase? You guys know why they're called that? I'm assuming people in this chat definitely know, but I'm gonna ask anyways, because maybe not everybody does. Hello, Mum. Good evening to you. Had to get up early to spectate about... Oh, it's like, you don't watch basketball, but that means my nephew had a basketball game today. That makes sense. I was very confused. I thought my mom turned into an NBA watcher. That would be weird. Boom! Eric with the knowledge. Yippers. Oh, everybody knows. All right. Well done, Eric. You were fastest. I feel like I'm thinking about this letter too much. I just have to let it go. Nope. Not detailed, though. It's true. The uppercase was farther away because we don't use the uppercase letters as often. It was put in the uppercase, which was farther away and not needed as much. Oof. Hello, Benny. Welcome, welcome. Whoa. I am very bad at the capital V, I'm realizing. Late Night Live, where Michael Ward comes to be bad at penmanship. I start feeling it after like the third or fourth one that I write. The path starts to feel better. But the first one, not so much. Case in point. Gotta get this nice curve going out. Letterpress equipment is so cool. I'm hoping to acquire at some point. I don't have the space for it, but I'm hoping to acquire a tabletop press of some sort. I almost bought one, was it last year? But I did not bite, and I should have. Because when I regretted it, I looked back and it was already sold from a shutting down letterpress shop. Also gotta fix something with my loop here. It's not bringing his loop down quite as far. So it's hitting right basically in the middle of that implied oval up there. As it comes down. It's a shape we end up getting. The middle of that oval would be right here. We're not hitting the middle, we're coming in instead of sweeping down or sweeping in from the left a little too much. Letterpress is super cool. I am a fan. There was also there was a Kelsey, what was it, 3x5 for sale for a long time that I was gonna get. But I think I want, what is it, the 6x8, the next size up. Just so I can potentially print slightly bigger things than the little one. Polished and assembled. I've been doing a ton of research on sewing machines randomly recently. That's been my, it's bedtime, I'm listening to a podcast sort of, or some people playing D&D, and I'm scrolling through my phone looking at sewing machine stuff. I'm potentially going to be acquiring a sewing machine here pretty soon for some hobby sewing. I've been wanting to get one for a while. Now it's time to bite the bullet. I know the machines I eventually want, but I cannot afford, nor do I have the space for them yet, so I'm getting something just very chill. But I do need to go into what's gonna make the decision for me is I'm gonna take some leather samples into the shop. I live a few blocks away from a FAF store or a Janome dealer. So I'm going to dive in there and check out a few machines that were recommended to me, because I can't justify an industrial machine at this point in the game. but I've decided I have way too much leather scrap. I have a lot of little pieces of leather, so I need to start making things. And I enjoy making little things, but hand sewing takes forever. That would be a fascinating lecture, Peter. Was that in person? Like a lecture hall, or is that an online thing? Ooh, that's a little better. Still not as compound curvy as his and as round at the bottom, but best big one we've done so far. Dope. That's cool. Dope. Okay. Feeling slightly better those last two. Oh yeah, what a difference that made. I say that and then do a crappy entry. Nope, too sharp. Keep what you were doing, nice and round. Closer. One thing I love about doing these like incremental exercises, when you're following the book and you actually go through the motions of this to do this, to do this, to do this, is actually being able to see the sort of the change and feel the change of how things felt like over here versus how they felt over here. I don't, unfortunately, get those feelings as much with ornamental penmanship anymore because the growth and the changes are so tiny. They're still there, but they take a lot more sort of attention to catch on to and to feel. But with something that I'm not as comfortable with, or something I don't do nearly as often, it feels pretty cool. Polished and assembled. The one I'm looking at right now, it is a discontinued model, but it's a tiny little thing, but it is on the heavy duty side. It's not one of their heavy duty machines, but I believe it has the same motor as the heavy duty machines. It's the Janome, what is it, SUV 1122, I think it's called. Tiny little machine, but powerful enough with a leather needle, and it comes with a walking foot, which will be very helpful when sewing multiple pieces of leather together. So the only thing it doesn't have is I can't adjust the pressure of the presser foot. It doesn't have that adjustment, so doing 2 or 3 layers of the leather that I use may be a deal breaker for it. I'm not sure. That's why I gotta take some leather into the shop. I would tomorrow, but I teach for Mont Blanc tomorrow, and I teach tap dance tomorrow. So one of these days in the next couple weeks, I'll get a piece of leather in there and test it. And if it works, I will buy it. If it doesn't, I'll probably get like a Janome HD 5000 or something like that. That can basically, it's just a bigger machine that can essentially do the same thing. It's no more powerful. I have a very small apartment, so the little SUV 1122 would be sort of ideal. I can put the case on and just kind of tuck it away. When I have other stuff going on, oh, it's crazy how this stroke just disappears when I try to, like, that looks good there. When I try to do that into a V, it's amazing how that just goes out the window. That's true. If I can adjust it, like, within the machine or just make, like, a permanent adjustment, I'm always going to be sewing basically the same thing. I don't imagine I'll be sewing very many light textiles. I'll just be sewing pretty much always 2 or 3 pieces of leather together. I say that, but who knows, maybe I'll end up wanting to get things more complicated eventually. And eventually I do want to own one of those, what do they call them? The Chinese leather shoe patchers. That's their official term. It's like a super cheap cast iron, or I think now they're cast in aluminum. But a leather patching machine that take a lot of fiddling, but are super, super capable. I want one of those eventually, just to have one. But now is not the time. I have too many other things I need to focus on. Whoa. That one gets the happy face, because I'm quite happy with that one. Not that one, but that one. I don't know about that. I don't have time to do all of the things that I want to learn how to do. Unfortunately. I don't even have the time to dedicate to my penmanship as much as I want to these days. It's busy. Yeah, that would be the leather shoe patcher that I want to get in the long run. Is a hand crank machine. There are people who found ways to attach a motor to it, which I would want to probably do that eventually, but crazy how off-center wonky that lower oval can get. Too angled, that one. Oh wow, so you're swimming in sewing machines. I wish I was back in LA again, where when I got into doing leather stuff, my buddy Albane, it was his shop, Albane for Leather, that I used to hang out at all the time. I was at his shop so often, cutting blotters and just hanging out and learning about leather stuff. And he has everything. all the leather tools, all the leather machines, it's like a leather Disneyland. It was incredible. I've never owned a sewing machine. My sister sews, so whenever I needed something sewn, I just took it home and asked my sister to make things for me. When I had random projects that needed stitching, or I've stitched a ton of things by hand, but that's quite time consuming. Like, as an example, like this. I think I've shown this on stream before, maybe? Can't remember. This is my pen map. It currently has all my Mont Blancs in it. Stitching like that. This is the kind of stuff I would love to do, just do things like this on a machine. Simple, straight stitches, nice and clean. But it's a little too time consuming to do it. Hand stitching, though it's very strong and works. Yeah, one-handed would be much harder. Cranking with one hand and getting the material. Less than enjoyable, I imagine. Ooh, a little too narrow, but that was decent. Needs a little more of an exit on the end too. Getting that nice, that little hook on the end and not going out so rapidly. Oh, right. Let me bring you guys back in here. Yeah. Ooh, that's the right exit stroke that I want. Lost fluidity on that one. I didn't even, well, I knew you had a sewing machine, but I didn't know what kind it was. Next time I come, well, I mean, I guess I'm gonna be home pretty soon. In the next month, I'll be back home for a little bit. For a visit. The curve with the swoop is a difficult transition with that V. It is indeed. Oh, I didn't even realize there was a sewing machine in your avatar. Nice. The avatars are way too tiny on my screen to see anything. A featherweight from 1951. You have two machines? I didn't know you had two sewing machines. And I lived in that house. Whoops. I don't pay attention. The old Kenmores, I've read a lot of things, and people say the old Kenmores were pretty dope. But those were made by Janome, I believe. Having a restored old vintage heavy-duty cast iron machine would be dope. Just because it would fit my aesthetic relatively well. But I do not have the know-how or the time to dedicate to making one work. That's decent. Alright, let's do some comparing here. Where's the V? V. Where's that good one we had? So he has a little more... Oh, I'm totally off the camera, sorry. There we go. He still gets narrower. You see, his is still more compounded than mine. It's that exit stroke. Also, nice rounder entry, which I need to work on. That one had a decent round entry. Some of these ones did too. Lots of things to work on. You know how many things are already in my backdrop? Oh, the spinning top is still going. I haven't looked at it in a while. What is that? Hour and 13 minutes so far it's been spinning. Keep an eye on it. I'm counting on you guys to let me know if I don't hear it. Yeah, the curves at the top have like a little... It's getting that nice fluid compound curve. It's difficult. So, you're gonna go to the next letter, which doesn't have, has one compound curve, but not both compound curves. It goes into an undercurve, which is gonna feel, I'm assuming, much more comfortable. I'll revisit the V, obviously, many times after this, but to keep things moving right along, we're going to do lesson 29. The first part of the U is the same as the first part of the V. Allow the finished part to be brought up just a trifle shorter than the first part of the letter. With beginners, it is sometimes a help to check the movement a little at the top of the unfinished stroke. Sorry, at the top of the finishing stroke. That would be right here. Which is what I probably will do so that we don't get too much of a potential loop right there for the time being. Use the movement, but keep it under control. It's not about speed. These copies will afford excellent practice in miscellaneous writing. See that the finishing part of the letters is the same as shown in the copy. I mean specifically the words. Oh, the storage unit, or the shelves, when are they going to be done? Ugh, anybody's guess. The machine or the wood shop still has the replacement wood for this and all the long shelves that go on top. Because this is being, obviously, I've already mentioned in previous weeks, being replaced by a new desktop and then new shelves so that they all match. So I'll have to sell Facebook Marketplace, I guess, this piece of wood and all the existing shelves that I cut and stained and did all the work to before winter. They will be cast away, but I have to wait for the wood shop to be done with those boards. They're taking a really long time. I should write them an email tomorrow just to check in on progress and see how things are going. I know they emailed me to say there was a holdup. But I did not ask any questions after that. I just said, no problem, because I wasn't in a hurry. Yes, you are right, Steve. The metal body machines will outlive us all. Basically, any vintage item is what outlives us all. Things, they don't build them like they used to, is a saying for a reason, I guess. I'm a sucker for old things. Or new things that are built solid and nice. But on average. I like the old stuff. True, true. Okay, so we're just gonna we do our little loop, and then we do that into an undercurve. And then cascading lower and lower undercurves. Sounds good in one fluid movement. Checking my speed at the top of the finished, potentially. One thing I have to be very careful of is, well, what happened right here, getting that, you get that, an extreme over exaggeration of it is the waves that hook over. That's an exaggeration, but that happens quite often. People are getting used to, even with the lowercase u, when we're doing the lowercase u or the lowercase I, not having that hook over even just a little bit, so that it's nice undercurve and downstroke. A habit to negate right off the get-go. Distance. That's more of the idea. Not the most fluid yet. I'm remembering, oh, I didn't make tea for this stream. I took my mug in the kitchen, but I forgot to make tea today. That's unusual. I was gonna say I did drink a fair bit of tea and not my normal decaf tea earlier today. I was drinking green tea. I'm out of water as well. So my muscles are maybe a little teed up. Not as relaxed as they normally are. Oh, Peter, you going to bed? Sounds good, Peter. Have a good night. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time. It takes, well, I'd have to go in the kitchen and get the water boiling. It's a lot of time off stream if I make tea. I could. Nip out and put the kettle on. Nip out and put the kettle on. Good. I probably don't need tea. I'm okay. I usually just forget to drink it anyways. Maybe in a bit. Oh, that's fun. I've never watched Sewing Machine Garage Guy. Getting a little tight in here. Need to open that up. A little bit. I can't read your entire comment yet, Eric. I'm sorry. There's that little heart on the right side above the send button on my chat is over top of... Oh, there we go. BP Sigs. Ah! Yes. I mean, I want to. I would love to. Yes. Basically, I want to incorporate it here and there into most everything I do when I get a little more comfortable with it, with the capitals. Ooh, that was decent. Yeah, I want to see one neat thing about, like when you mentioned business penmanship signatures, most of them, they're pretty standard, pretty basic. I really liked some of the experiments you were doing with some of the ones you posted in the Creatrium, some sort of unique ideas. So I really want to take some of the unique things that I've put into more complicated ornamental penmanship signatures before and see. Obviously the same flourishes won't work, but I want to just, if I can get really comfortable with the business penmanship capitals, I want to see how they can be connected together without looking like just unshaded ornamental penmanship. Like how far you can push BP where it still looks like a BP capital and not just a overly flourished, undershaded wannabe ornamental penmanship capital. It's sort of a neat challenge, but can't do that until I get more comfortable with the letters. With ornamental penmanship, I know it enough. I know them enough. I can play, and my brain just does the work for me. I don't really have to work. My hands do the work for me, I guess. But BP, we're not there yet. So that is a goal of mine. Yes. Good night, Eric. Thanks a lot for hanging out. We will. Yeah, just it's cool because it's like minimalist style. It's flourished, but just a smidge, just a sprinkle here or there, to make it unique, which is neat. They're appealing. What are my thoughts on signatures as logos versus signatures as scribbles and flourishes? I think signatures and logos can work really well. I think you have to be careful with a signature as a logo, because oftentimes signatures can be tough to read, which your logo doesn't have to be legible if it's just if it could be a recognizable shape. But like those photo logos that you see on social media and whatnot a lot, some of them are super cool. Some of them I think are like perfect and really sort of brilliant in how they're designed. Other ones, stylistically, are really cool, but to me, I don't know if they make the best logo. One issue with a legible signature as a logo is, again, scalability. They kind of break the rules of like what a logo can or should be, and you don't have to follow rules. It can be whatever you want it to be. A personal signature that looks like a stylized company logo. I'm not exactly sure I know what you mean now. My apologies. Do you mean like a logo like Ray-Ban, for example, is like a handwritten, almost signature type style? I'm not sure exactly what you mean. I apologize. Bring this down a little bit. Too sharp. Whoa, so wobbly. So wobbly. That's better. Still got that little bit of a point in that corner. Oh. Got you. So you mean like using a signature that's designed as like an actual signature versus having your signature be like most people's signatures, which is essentially an illegible scribble. I mean, it's whatever. It's different people like different things. Like for example, my banking or my business signature is not penmanshipy at all. It's basically a heart monitor. I would be intrigued at the idea of using something like a business penmanship signature in the future. But again, that's anybody that can do business penmanship could then essentially copy my signature. Whereas my actual signature looks a little, it's straight up Ojaswini. It's basically a heart monitor. It's very spastic and up and down. I mean, if you think about this isn't my signature, but if you think about my initials, we have an M and we have a W. So with lowercase in the middle, so it's basically just it's just up and down, pretty much. So when you do that fast and then you spread it out, it's a little heart monitor. I used to have a little cartoon character, and he had a necklace that had this shape. That was a little heart monitor, and there was, when I was in high school, I think, I wanted to make a little animation video of his birth or his creation. And it was gonna like Astro Boy, how he was sitting on a table and he like woke up. He was gonna be there, and you'd see the heart monitor as a flat line, and then it would go beep, and it'd be the MW in a heart monitor, and then he would wake up essentially. Because I used to have versions that were longer, shorter, things like that. I used to do stuff like that all the time when I was younger. Well, heart monitor. Oh, I mean, your signature doesn't have to be pretty. A signature is just a signature. It's just a bunch of, I mean, that's not my signature. My signature is just a bunch of scribbles, though. Not like my penmanship signature, which is much more refined, but I would never really use that at this stage anyways for business. I know there are people, like I believe, I could be mistaken, but I think David Grimes uses a business penmanship signature for his, like, business signature now, maybe? I could be, don't quote me on that, I could be mistaken. But there are people that do. That's better. Regular cursive. Interesting. There is nothing regular cursive-y about mine. Oof. I should make a quick note to anybody who's watching this video after, or who didn't watch last week's, or anything like that. It is important for me to mention that the way I'm practicing in this video, though I'm actually dedicating a lot more time than we normally do to forms and specific shapes and whatnot, this is not necessarily the recommended way of practicing business penmanship. You wouldn't really go in one sitting from all of the pieces of one letter to all of the pieces of a next letter to the next letter, the next letter, the next letter. You would dedicate like a lot of time, multiple sessions to like one, like even where we started today with this V. Similar to how, like I showed when I was doing ascender practice the other day, like you keep going and you keep going and until things get really, really comfortable. And then before I did the ascenders, I was working on B's. So then I was working on connecting the B's and the L's. So connecting those two exercises. And it's like multiple days of practice on those specific exercises, because then they can properly build on each other. As an example, like the day I was working on the capital P, and this I only did one day, but this could be like, you keep doing this for days, weeks, you keep going, the one exercise till it feels comfortable, and then I started creating words and whatnot, but really focusing on that one thing till it gets super, super comfortable. Same thing, working on the B over and over and over and over and over again. Rinse and repeat and compare, and rinse and repeat and compare. But those sessions are very just me in my own head and comparing. They're not very entertaining. I hope this is, I don't know if this is entertaining. This is potentially kind of boring as well. This is like a halfway between good practice session, but also chatting with some folks and a little bit of playtime. A little of both. Not prone to a hidden agenda or say one thing and mean another. Oh, so if you have the same writing as your signature, you are straight-laced, believable, trustworthy person, apparently. Well, knowing that, I could just make my signature look like my handwriting. All right, Steve, thanks a lot for hanging out. We will see you next time. What you see is what you get. No nonsense. Oops. That's better. It's a long acronym. It's a good one, though. What's the longest acronym you've ever seen? Or the weirdest acronym? I gotta be honest, IAMPITH is up there as a weird or as a long, strange acronym. Now the question, sorry, I know I just asked that question. I haven't looked at the chat yet. I'm gonna say, after the U, should we go to the Y or should we dive into the capital D? What do you guys think? If you know, you know. I don't type a lot of acronyms, aside from your classic LOL. Problem is between chair and a computer. Wow, I've never heard that one before. I like that. Pibcac. Whoops. That's better. Look at that one real quick. So my upper loop is much larger than his. I gotta work on that. A little too slanted as well, but his are flatter. Okay, so the V's are rounder on the bottom. The U's can be a little more sharp. Maybe that's too sharp, that one. Too sharp is what I... So my Mont Blanc collection is not really a Mont Blanc collection. These pens do not specifically belong to me. I teach for Mont Blanc, so these are the classes that I teach with. So I have these pens to teach my classes, but I don't have a Mont Blanc collection. I don't personally own many Mont Blanc pens. Good night, Mom. Have a good evening. Sleep well. I would really like a, what is it, a Mont Blanc, the old safety, I think number 2 or a number 4, the old Simplo safeties. Oh, they're very expensive, but they're very gorgeous. They're like they're the oldest class. They're what I think of when I think of an old Mont Blanc pen. I have for quite a while been keeping my eye on them on the internets, but I have not bit the bullet of getting one. But that is what I hope to acquire one day. The vintage Mont Blanc safeties are beautiful. It is a. I didn't think about that when I rolled them out, but when I opened it, it was quite a. It felt it's a cool look to roll them out like that. No, a lot of those are for my class. The majority of the pens in my collection, I have a small vintage Moore safety collection. Moore was an old company from Boston, New York. Can't remember specifically. Somewhere on the East Coast. Old pens. Had gotten one that was my grandfather's after he passed. And that sort of started me down the road of learning how to restore them, and then I just had a soft spot for them, so I started collecting them. And then the majority of the pens that I have would be, I collected Waterman more than anything back when I was actively collecting vintage fountain pens and restoring and doing all that stuff before I got into penmanship. It's only relatively recently, within the past few years, I'd say, that well, maybe a little more than that, but yeah, a few years that I've gotten somewhat back into my fountain pen world. As my penmanship got better, I sort of started using my fountain pens less and less because I wanted, I was working on ornamental penmanship, so super flexy, super fine, oblique holders, that doesn't exist in a fountain pen, so I just stopped using my pens a little more. But then, as I started refining my writing and just liking to write, especially now that I'm working on business penmanship and just clean penmanship, and I have my custom ground and custom nibs on my fountain pens, they now do exactly what I want. So I've started using them a whole lot more than I used to. So it went from lots of fountain pens to almost no fountain pens, and pretty much exclusively dip pens, and now the fountain pens has been growing back in my using charts, which makes me very happy because I like that I have a collection, though a small collection. I would like to use it. Too sharp up there. Dr. Joe's fountain pen collection is pretty incredible. One of the pens in my modern collection, right here. This is my Sailor Pro gear that had a extra fine nib in it, but has since been, obviously, because it's mine, custom ground. I think it's inked. It should be. Doesn't have quite as fine as the vanishing point that I was using. Has a little bit more feedback, but still a very nice fine writing experience. Not Mike Feinegrind. Sorry, yes, Mike Feinegrind. So it writes very nice as well. What I need to start doing is putting different inks in these different pens. Because they all have, most of them have Mont Blanc Cool Gray in them right now, which is my favorite monotone. Monotone? No, my favorite black ink. It's a dark gray ink. But I need to start putting more colors in, like this one has burgundy. Changes things up. I don't write in color very often, but just to give me an excuse to reach for a different pen, since most of the nibs write pretty similar. This one's just wet. I haven't used it in quite a while. Or sorry, not wet, it's just dry. I haven't used it in quite a while. And I didn't clean it out. Can you see on the camera that that's burgundy? Make the mic fine grip nib. I mean, the problem with the mic fine grip nib, or the, mic fine grind nib, most people, I would say 90% of people, or more than that, would highly dislike my pens. Trying to find another one that has colored ink in it. Reach! Well, the thing with, I use the gray ink because with the super fine line, it just looks like a really nice, fine black line. Whereas when I use black ink, the hairlines they almost look a little bit, well, look, they are a little bit darker, so they're not quite as fine looking. So it's a bit of an illusion. This one has, what ink is this? Edelstein Teal, I believe? By Pelican? But yeah, most people would not really enjoy writing with these pens. I enjoy writing with them because they're specifically what I asked for and what I want, but they're very specific. Yeah, if you want to practice, like, I don't grind these. I grind, like, I tune my dip pen nibs because they don't cost anything. They're very, very cheap. But when it comes to the fountain pens, I don't do the fountain pens. I've messed with a few, like, cheap Chinese knockoffs that cost me like $5. I've never tried to modify an actual decent fountain pen nib. Let's see, is it finer than a 0.3 technical pencil? I happen to have a 0.3 technical pencil sitting right on my desk right now. Let's find out. Oh, I haven't done penmanship with a pencil in a while. That compared to the gray tuna glass pen nib. I'm curious if a glass pen could be that fine. I mean, I guess it could. It'd be really hard to make. Oh, that's much darker of a line. But what's interesting, if I use a dip pen, what pencil is that? My favorite pencil, currently, it is the Graph Gear 500 0.3 millimeter mechanical pencil. I have the 0.5, which is the black one, and then the 0.3, which is the brown one. I wish the 0.3 was black, because I just wish this pen was black. I wonder if I could swap out the inside to have the black one be 0.3, just because the 0.3 is the one that I use the most. Yep. I can't zoom in, my lens is at full zoom today, but what I wanted to show was the color of the gray. It's kind of fascinating. If I used a dip pen, see if this one is gonna work for me today. Should. This should look pretty close to the pencil, I think. So basically that tells me, well, I can hardly, I'm looking right at it from close up, and I can hardly tell the difference from here between the pencil and the and the dip pen, which is funny. Oh, I don't think my isograph 0.13, it would be darker than all of these, but I don't think it's inked at the moment. So I can't show you that demonstration of that one. And I don't think this line, like, it's lighter than the fountain pen lines, but I don't think it's really, it might be slightly finer. I think it's just really the iron gall ink that is almost gray in the shades. And that's a fun fact about the Ojaswini is likely was guaranteed heard me say this before. But if you want the finest of fine in like a rote ring pen, in a technical pen, where is it? 0.13, there it is. I won't be able to zoom in enough to really show it, but you would assume the 0.10 is finer because that's the smaller number, because the numbers go down. 0.13 is a bigger number than 0.10. It has to be a mistake. I haven't found anything from Rotring that explains why it's this way. All the rest go exactly as you would expect. Mathematically, higher numbers get higher, but the 0.13 is much finer than the 0.1. They'll look the exact same on screen right now, but when you zoom in close to them, the tip of the 0.13 is smaller. It has an extra little thing on the end that makes it finer. So a lot of people purchase the 0.10 thinking it's the finest technical pen that they can buy, but it is not. And I've bought many, whether you get the isograph or the rapidographs. I personally prefer the isographs. The nib is basically the same. It's just the filling mechanism, or the cartridges they take. The 0.13 is finer. I use them for when I do what I call section lined work, when I do like 3D shading and whatnot in writing. I don't have any examples of it here close by me, but when I use a ruler and I do shading using a lot of lines or stippling or things like that, I use those because the line is always guaranteed the same thickness. I can ride it across a ruler and it's not gonna splay, or the tines aren't gonna get tricky. But yeah, as you go up, like 0.2 is bigger, 0.3 is bigger. They just get bigger and bigger, as you would expect. Where can you get a section liner? Good question. They can be tricky to come by. Basically, you just keep your eye on eBay, pretty much, and you hope for the best. There is one that is made by a company called Huff that show up relatively often. The most common is the vintage ones with a wood base and a bar. Not too bad. The Huff ones are more expensive. There's like 2 on eBay right now, but they're in the 200 range, which in my opinion is too much money for them. You can get them for under 100. I think my very first section liner I bought right after Harvest Crittenden was the first person that told me about them. I was at it was either the Spencerian Saga or the Engrossing Saga that I attended years ago, and she told us about them, and I dove in and bought one just because I saw it on eBay, and I think it cost me like $75. But I've got some as cheap as like $20 or $30, and then I have another one that is more expensive. But yeah, if you just keep your eye on eBay, they do show up from time to time. How do I spell that? The Huff, it's H-A-F-F for that one. There's a bug crawling on my hand. Get off. Where did you come from? Alright, let's do a couple more U's. I've kind of lost my discipline as we were chatting there. So now, what's the consensus? Nobody answered. Should we go into the capital Y or the capital D? How are we feeling in the chat? What do you guys think? This goes into the Y, like so. Oh, okay, sounds good. We'll do the Y. So basically, the same thing as a U. We're gonna exercise the same way. He doesn't cascade smaller this time, which I find interesting. He does these all the same. And then we have our descender exiting what looks like above the baseline. Oh, look how weird that looks. Look, this line comes, both of these ones, well, you can't see what I'm pointing at. Both of these Ys, this is the descender. They come over here in an overcurve. Then it curves, it almost like compounds, and then goes again. It's like a woo-woo. It's like a double curve, which is usually a no-no. That's strange. Like, this is what I would expect more of, where it curves over and then goes almost straight shot to the O. It doesn't have that extra curve. I don't think that's an intentional little dip in the middle there. Could be, but that feels weird. Oh, I did see your reply. Okay, I didn't. We were talking about acronyms. I thought you were just doing acronym stuff. I didn't know you were responding to the answer. My apologies to that. The eye could be getting bent. I do think it's a double curve. Oh, here, can I get a ruler? I do think it's a double curve. A rare, accidental, unintentional double curve, potentially. But also, maybe not. I'm going here. I can't zoom in any farther. I apologize. I feel like it dips right in the middle, like right there. It has a little bit of a, I mean, this is fractions of millimeters here. Barely. Yeah. It's basically straight. My eye might be just playing tricks on me. But I do feel like there's a little dip in it. Slightly. I don't think it's intended to be that slight of a little dip. I don't believe they did that on purpose. That would just be a product of creating the letter. Because most of the time, that's not something I see most of the time. Usually it's a curve over, and then if anything, it just continues like straight. Because the reason I don't think it's an optical illusion, I don't want to use a pen with ink close to that, is I see it on these two, but there are other letters here that are doing the same thing, and I don't see it on these ones. Like this would be the same optical illusion. This one has it a little bit. It's almost like it finishes the overturn and then goes into another overturn. Instead of like this one finishes the overturn and then just continues straight. The trajectory continues straight into the O. A few of these go like over, 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 over. They have like an extra whoop, whoop, an extra, I'm exaggerating it, but that's weird. Business penmanship. Strange. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we're gonna do that first exercise again. Not getting smaller this time. Oops, sorry. A little bit of a better flow, especially in that beginning. Gotta keep it round in the beginning. This is one of those instances where if you're ever doing an exercise like this, a drill like this is one of those easy ones to get. Not an easy drill, but it could end up, if you watch my fingers, it could end up into one of these versus letting the arm do that for you. It's really easy for the wrist and fingers to start wanting to take over undercurve exercises like this. So if you're trying to do movement writing, I mean, your fingers can come into play a little bit, but it's really easy for the fingers to sort of want to take over on this one and not let the hand do the work. Oh, he finishes on the downstroke. Oops. I finished on the upstroke. So he has a lot more retrace than I would expect. His undercurves are much more curved than mine to keep them narrow without retrace. I end up making my connective strokes a little bit straighter than he does, so I gotta be aware of that. Making that too long is going to be something I'm going to have to be very cautious of. That's the idea. For the descent, or for the descender. This is still too pointy on that top bit. Actually, what's my angle? Ooh, pretty okay. Compared to his, that's good. I often make my descender capitals way too angled. In ornamental penmanship as well. I make my G's and my Y's very long and angled. Gotta keep that pulling stroke on the right angle. Whoa. Oh. Too long. Do I do calligraphy like unshow, black letter, and whatnot? I can. I don't do them a lot. I really like black letter. I want to get much better at black letter. Unshow, I like unshow quite a bit. Again, I don't do it a ton, but I am more proficient in unshow than I would say I am in black letter. As an example, where is it here? Just because it happens to be right here. From handouts from a class that I was teaching when I was in Philadelphia for a very, what I call casual unshow. But here's where we were working on spacing and whatnot. But yes, I call it ghetto unshow. I mean, I can do traditional unshow as well, but I teach a variation of casual unshow, or funshow, as I call it, or ghetto unshow, as I originally called it. I like ghetto unshow. It's fun. Takes the stress away, and it's just a chill style. I teach the casual or the funshow, the casual unshow, in one of my, it's a 3-part Mont Blanc series. It's on their website currently. And I actually just recently was working in the boutique here in Vancouver and got to work. I did casual unshow one-on-one with a few people, which was really fun. and Spencerian and Flourishing as well, but some people asked for the Uncial, which was quite fun. Oof, rough. I have a bad habit of taking this connective stroke or this undercurve straight or almost like curving over to the right a little bit rather than maintaining the undercurve all the way up. Definitely happens, and it comes from in styles like shaded Spencerian. I'll do something like, I'll just bring it up and then the downstroke is something like that on it. Something like so. So it has that little like that curve, which in that instance it's intentional, but it's not intentional in business penmanship, so I have to not allow myself to do that. What are my thoughts on the wobbly style of cursive calligraphy? The wobbly style of modern cursive calligraphy? I don't know what you mean by wobbly. I'm guessing you mean just like a modern penmanship or a modern calligraphy. I personally don't do it, but I have nothing against it. I think it has its place, and a lot of people really love it. I think when done by a calligrapher who has a good foundation in shaded pointed pen scripts, it looks really nice. And there are certain instances where it can be the right style for the application. Like I've seen certain weddings done in it that look really pretty. I think when I don't like it as much is when I see it written and I don't see or feel sort of the training that went into it. Like the foundation isn't there. Sort of like that whole we learn the rules so we can break the rules type of thing. It's not necessarily about learning the rules, but when you have that foundation, that just shows in like time control and in balance and also just understanding letter forms. One thing that does on occasion bug me about certain styles of modern penmanship or modern calligraphy is certain letter forms look like other letters, which make words read other ways. When people get super bouncy and super flowy, it's just like when we flourish. You have to be very careful that your flourishes don't change the formula of your letters, so your letters are read a different way. And there are certain modern calligraphy letters that don't necessarily look like the letter they're supposed to, unless they're written, I think, by somebody who has a foundation in other calligraphic or pointed pen styles, because then they can do that form and they can get close, but they can sort of do the more modern unique form but not lose the essence of the letter that they're creating. So it's a balancing act, basically. I can really like it or I can dislike it, but I have nothing against it. I don't hate on it by any stretch. Random brush calligraphy looks weird and wonky. I would say a similar thing. Brush calligraphy can look really beautiful and amazing. I think when it's done by somebody whose eye is trained to recognize certain things, when they push the boundaries with a different tool, what they create is very similar to what somebody without that foundation can create, but it just looks worlds different. My best comparison is like I think teaching groove, like take hip hop dance for example. The groove that you learn from like foundational hip hop grooving is super important. And there's not a lot of groove built in to choreographic styles that we see on TV and whatnot. But when I watch the dancers on TV and on tours and things like that with artists, the ones who have a groove foundation compared to the ones who don't, it's a fine difference, but it's a world. To me, it's a world of a difference, because one looks dope and one looks not as good as it could. Basically, that's kind of the difference. Yeah, Suzanne Cunningham, Rachel Yallop, like there are lots of people that create, that do really, really beautiful modern penmanship or modern calligraphy, and modern brush penmanship work. It can look really awesome. I just think if it has a little bit of foundation behind it, even if you do the exact same forms, you having that foundation makes it look better, I think. And honestly, for me, whatever gets somebody holding a pen and writing is really all I care about. If you want to do modern calligraphy, if you want to do ancho, if you want to do ghetto ancho, if you want to do brush, if you want to do anything, honestly. Like there are like the pointed pen variations of ancho that I think are really, really cool. So many. Whatever you want to do, whether you're good at it, bad at it, doesn't matter. If it's a hobby, that's sweet. I'm a very big fan of the saying, you don't have to be good at your hobbies as long as you like them. So if you like doing modern calligraphy, rock on. If you want to get better at it, there are many people who can get you better at it. And they can teach you foundation of other styles and even foundations in modern calligraphy that will help you along that journey. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. The only time I will ever say things about things like that is like I encourage people to just do what they want regardless of skill and quality and whatnot. Just do it. The only time I will sometimes intervene, I will say, not intervene, but I will potentially say something if somebody's in a teaching position, if somebody's teaching something that happens to be lacking in some kind of foundational thing. I don't think that is necessarily the best way, but I'm not going to tell somebody not to teach. I can just sort of push in a direction, basically. Yeah, Mike Kessick's pointed pen anchos, his pointed pen scripts are beautiful and super cool. I loved taking his class. I remember when I took his class, he's one of the ones where I walked up to him before the class and told him, I said, hey Mike, just so you know, I'm gonna be sitting at the back, basically just like leaning back in my chair watching, because that's how I like to take class when it's a style I've never done before. I wasn't actively working and looking down at my page. I wanted to watch everything his hand and his nib and everything we're doing. So I just wanted to make sure he didn't think I was being just a disrespectful guy in the back of his class, just hanging out, watching and judging and things like that. Most certainly wasn't. I couldn't judge his stuff anyways. It's incredible. I just wanted to watch it so I didn't miss anything. That's good, polished and assembled. You gotta get that rod out of your spine and loosen up. And then it starts feeling good. getting that hard, that sharp point at the top. I gotta iron that out. Where this little fly came from. A fly got in my apartment somehow today. Get. You don't belong here. Yep, those little micro adjustments, micro movements. Especially in the pointed pen class, because like the thickness changes ever so slightly during like his downstrokes and things like that. He's incredible. He's a master penman. Does beautiful, amazing work. And he's just a super, super nice guy as well. I gotta probably do that drill and get more comfortable with that one. I skipped a few steps. Or not skipped, I guess, but didn't dedicate enough time to get the shape of that little oval and to get this, that initial shape, so I don't have to think about it yet. Interesting. YouTube seems like it's doing some weird ads today. But some people might have videos of his, or video like snippets of him writing potentially somewhere. I'm not honestly sure. It's getting you ready for battle. That's the idea. A little too angled. I like the shape of that one. Not that one. Pointy. Getting a little bit of swoop to the left in that descender. I gotta be careful. I don't know if he'd be into having a YouTube channel. Not super sure. Oof. Sharp, sharp, sharp. So sharp up there. I need to get better at black letter. One day. Quite round on the bottom there. Gotta sharpen that up, but just a little bit. Oh, his top is so nice and round. A little better. How about start this March? Why this March? What's happening in March? See, I want to learn. I want to get the forms of black letter and whatnot in my head nice and solid, so that I can play with it and do sort of like a what they would call like a calligraphy, more of what like a lot of the people in Germany and a lot of the calligraphy masters people are doing, more of a quick stylized variation of it. But I don't want to do that first, because I want to have the foundation in black letter so that I do the forms correctly, or so that I have the basis of what the forms are supposed to be, so I know how much I can stretch them and squish them without them losing their integrity. Monthly challenge for daily practice. Ah, got you. Well, March isn't a great time because that's when, same as last year, same as previous years, it's almost time for me to go out of town again. too curvy down there. When am I going? Not exactly sure when the takeoff day is, but sometime in early to mid-March, I'll be heading out. What's my PPP? Pens, paper, pink? What's PPP? I do not know this acronym. Oops. Pilot parallel. I couldn't bring a pilot parallel with me. That is very true. But how will I decide which one to... Well, that's not a pilot parallel. Pilot parallels. There was some in here too. No, I took them out. Oh, I have more rolls. They were in a leather roll at one point. Now they're just in a jar beside me. I really only use this one. I like this new size. And the 3, those ones would be the 4 for me. Here, we'll swap these 2 out, so we're using the new white barrels. Those 4. But really, even just the green one is all I really need for a little bit of decent sized practice here or there. This is true. I could. I have to say though, I'm one of those people who, if there's a beginner project to learn how to do something, I will often opt for diving in, failing epically, but working on a not beginner project. But yes, all of that will have to wait until I'm back in town. Pretty much all of the things, the shelving unit, the sewing, all of this stuff. I'm trying to sort of acquire some of the equipment and things I need now, so when I get back from this trip, I have everything I need and I can just dive into creativity in theory. Right here. Why won't you just go over to the left? This is true, but honestly, I have a lot of the leather cut. I would probably just make a bunch of leather pen rolls like the one I have. I have a lot of that leather actually cut into those sizes already, set up to be hand-stitched. I just don't want to hand-stitch them. So, but the leather is ready, so I'll probably just make, and little things like this, for example, like my little Schoen Pocket 6 fountain pen. Well, just simple little, this is what I'll practice on. This will be what gets me better at sewing and learning about getting the right seams and straight lines and all that kind of stuff, is just making these, which I've made a lot of them in the past, but they're all hand-stitched. So I'll just make some with machine stitching, and then I'll foil cool stuff onto them. But I'll still be doing hand stitching from time to time, because things like this, I can't machine stitch something that's really tight onto something, or like my water bottle, for example, has to be hand stitched to shape the leather around the bottle. There's leather everywhere in my apartment, I'm now realizing. Literally everywhere. And yes, of course, then a pirate shirt as well. So long. That was a good upper. I like that curve up there. It's got too round though. And a leather eye patch, yes, of course, that's important. And then there's other hand stitching things that I still want to do. I want to make more like leather baseballs and things like that, because those are fun to stitch up. Mr. Bad Pylon pirate on my shoulder. Ooh, that'd be cool, polished and assembled. Skull and crossbones inkwell. I could carve one of those too. We. It'd be so weird to see a pirate with a traffic cone on his shoulder. Pylon want a cracker? That'd be a fun pylon shirt, actually. Pylon parrot. Maybe. Might not look enough like a parrot to get the idea across. Yep, I gotta go back some pages and get that shape ironed out a little better. More consistent and get it shaped the way I want it. There. Finish with my comfort zone. It's hilarious to me that something like that is so much more comfortable for my hand to create than something like this. It looks so much easier. Hello, Daniel. Welcome, welcome. How long do I stream usually? I start at 9 p.m. my time. It is currently 11:45, and I usually end around now, somewhere between now and like between now and 1 o'clock, usually 1 o'clock a.m. So now and about an hour and 15 minutes from now. I am about to be finished. I'm sorry that you just got here, and I'm actually about to wrap up for the night. I have a very big day tomorrow. I gotta teach both a penmanship class and dance class, and I have some work to do. So I cannot be tired at all tomorrow. So that does mean that it's... Don't come on me, Ojaswinny. I know, we didn't get to the capital D today. I spent way too long chatting and doing... I just did 3 letters today. I wasn't all that productive. But I have to go to bed. I think something just fell over in my kitchen somehow. For some reason. Ooh, that was a pretty good one. You certainly will. Yes, I know you will. There, we did some capital D's. What I liked? Which one did I like? This one. This isn't flat on the baseline, but that's okay. We'll work on it another time. Yes, that is going to be it for me this evening. Again, I do apologize, Daniel. You just got here. Do I have a cat? No, I have no animals. My only pets are plants, and they don't move enough to knock anything over. Something must have been balancing precariously on something. I don't know. Or I imagined it. That's also a possibility. Maybe my neighbors made a noise or something, and I thought it came from the kitchen. We may never know. Fozzie won't be happy. Well, Fozzie's not here. Maybe if Fozzie was here, we'd still be going. Blame Fozzie. She's the reason no late night live tonight. You go and blame her. Anyways, thank you very much, everybody, for hanging out with me today. I mean, thank you very much, Daniel. I hope my plants behave as well. A couple of them just got repotted, so they're in new homes. Lurker James is still here? Wow. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you to those in the chat. Thank you to those not in the chat. Always love to the lurkers. This was a fun one. It was a pretty chill one today. Let's get some good practices, some good chats. Thank you very much for hanging out with me. Be sure that you are falling in love with this process if you're diving into penmanship. If you have any questions or comments or requests for future streams, drop them in the description of this video or in the comments below, so that I can read them and potentially do stuff for future streams for you. Yeah, make sure that you're falling in love with the process, and don't forget, everybody, that life should be just a bit of silliness, really. Good night and stream.